The world didn't go quiet all at once. First, there was a scream, my own, I think, and then a sound like 1,000 mirrors shattering inside my skull. I remember the smell of burnt rubber and the sight of Leo's terrified eyes as the car skidded toward the ravine. I remember the sudden, violent shove, the sensation of being launched through a windshield, and then a heavy, oppressive blanket of silence that never lifted. When I woke up in the hospital, the doctors were moving their lips like fish in a tank. Leo sat by my bed, his face a roadmap of scratches and tears. He held my hand so tight his knuckles were white. He didn't speak. He wrote on a notepad in jagged, desperate letters, "I'm sorry. I'll take care of you forever. I promise." For years, he did. He was my ears, my shield, and my favorite person. We grew up in the gilded bubbles of our family's wealth, mine a legacy of military discipline and academic rigor, his a hoard of corporate gold. But the bubble burst the moment we hit 15. The hallways of our private academy became a minefield. I could see the whispers. I could see the way the other girls tilted their heads, their lips curling into sneers. Is she actually deaf or just pretending to be special? I didn't know they were saying that. I only knew that Leo had started walking 3 paces ahead of me. One afternoon, Maya slammed her designer handbag onto the cafeteria table, the vibration rattling my teeth. Maya was ancestrally rich, the kind of rich where her family owned the land the school was built on. She was also a human hurricane with a penchant for combat boots and a lethal tongue. "Why is your lapdog acting like a stray?" Maya asked, her movements sharp and exaggerated so I could follow. I frowned, tilting my head. "Leo is just stressed about finals." Maya rolled her eyes and leaned in, her expression fierce. "He's not stressed, Elena. He's embarrassed. I saw him with the varsity crowd. They call you his child bride. They say he's only stuck with you because of some childhood guilt trip." I felt a cold prickle in my chest. I reached for my notebook, but Maya grabbed my wrist. "Stop writing. Stop being so damn polite. If someone insults you, you don't smile and nod. You bite back." I didn't want to bite. I loved Leo. I had loved him since we were 6, and he'd shared his umbrella with me in a thunderstorm. Saving him from that car crash hadn't been a choice. It had been an instinct. I would have jumped in front of a train for him. But then I started learning to read lips. I did it in secret, spending hours in front of the mirror, studying the way a P popped and an M hummed. I wanted to surprise Leo. I wanted to tell him I didn't need him to translate the world for me anymore. The surprise came first, and it wasn't the one I wanted. I was standing behind a pillar in the courtyard, watching Leo laugh with his friends. He looked handsome, his hair swept back, the sun catching the gold of his watch. Then one of the boys said something that made Leo smirk. I focused. I narrowed my eyes, tracking the movement of his lips. "She's a drag," Leo's lips formed clearly. "Do you know how exhausting it is? Every single conversation is a project. I only hang around because my parents would skin me alive if I didn't. It's family pressure, plain and simple. I don't actually love her. I just pity her." The world didn't go quiet this time. It exploded. The vibration of the distant school bell felt like a hammer against my ribs. I didn't cry. I didn't make a scene. I simply stepped back into the shadows and let the warmth I had carried for him for a decade freeze over. Maya found me 10 minutes later, sitting on the gym bleachers. She didn't ask what happened. She just saw my face and knew. "Who do I need to punch?" she demanded. I looked at her and slowly mouthed 3 words. "He hates me." Maya's face transformed into something truly terrifying. She stood up, her chest heaving. "That spineless, golden-haired piece of trash. I'm going to dismantle his entire existence." "Don't," I signed, my movements slow. It doesn't matter. It matters to me, Maya yelled, though I only saw the vein throbbing in her neck. You are the brightest thing in this miserable school, Alina. He's just a polished pebble. Over the next year, Leo's treatment of me shifted from neglect to active cruelty. He didn't hit me, that would be too obvious, but he used the silence. He would talk to people right in front of me, knowing I couldn't hear, and laugh when they looked at me with pity. He stopped translating. He stopped caring. Then came the girlfriend. She was named Chloe, a girl with a smile like a shark and a reputation for making freshmen cry. She was the leader of the elite clique, the same group that spent their afternoons mocking my hearing aids. Leo walked into the courtyard one Monday, holding Chloe's hand. He saw me and didn't even flinch. Chloe leaned in, her lips moving with exaggerated precision, making sure I could see every syllable. Does the little mute know she's been replaced? I stared at her, then at Leo. He was looking at the horizon, pretending he didn't see the interaction. Maya appeared from nowhere, stepping between me and Chloe. She was shorter than Chloe, but she radiated a predatory energy. Funny, Maya said, her voice likely dripping with sarcasm. I didn't know Leo liked his girls with the intellectual capacity of a toaster. Chloe's face flushed. Excuse me? You heard me, sweetheart, or maybe you're too busy practicing your mean girl face in the mirror to understand plain English. Get lost before I decide to buy the company your father works for and fire him via text. Chloe gasped, looking at Leo for support. Leo just looked awkward. Maya, stop it, Leo said, his voice probably flat. Maya turned to him, her eyes flashing. You're pathetic. You're so scared of a few whispers that you've turned into a coward. I hope she's worth the soul you sold. I watched them, feeling a strange sense of detachment. I wasn't the sunny girl anymore. The sun had set, leaving behind something colder and harder. During those months, there was one constant, Julian. Julian was Maya's older brother, a man who seemed to have been carved out of granite and kindness. He was 3 years older than us, already managing a wing of the family's conglomerate. He had always been fond of me, but lately he had become my sanctuary. Maya played matchmaker with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. Julian! Maya would scream across the house. Elena is here. She's bored. Come entertain her with your boring business talk. Julian would emerge, smelling of cedar and expensive coffee, with a smile that actually reached his eyes. He didn't treat me like I was broken. He had learned basic sign language in a month, and he always made sure I was facing him when he spoke. One afternoon, he picked us up from school in his black sedan. How was the day? Julian asked, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. I signed, tiring. Leo again? I nodded. Julian's grip tightened on the steering wheel. You know, the world is much larger than this city, Elena. There are places where people value substance over noise. I looked out the window, watching the blurred greenery of the suburbs. I know, I thought. I'm already planning my escape. I spent the next 6 months in a fever of study. While Leo was busy playing house with Chloe and ignoring my existence, I was preparing for the most grueling college entrance exams in the country. I applied to a top-tier university in a city 500 miles away. I didn't tell my parents until the last moment, and I certainly didn't tell Leo. The day the acceptance letters arrived, Leo tried to act like the protector again. He had broken up with Chloe. Apparently, her appetite for drama had finally exhausted him, and he approached me in the library. Alina, he said, his lips moving slowly, I've been thinking we should spend more time together. I missed our old bond. I looked at him. I didn't smile. I didn't blush. I just looked at him as if he were a stranger. I can read your lips, Leo, I said. My voice was raspy, unpracticed, but clear. He froze. His eyes widened. What? I've been able to read your lips for a long time, I told him, the words feeling like shards of glass in my throat. I heard everything. I heard you call me a drag. I heard you say you only stayed because of family pressure. I heard you say you pitied me. Leo stepped back, his face draining of color. Elena, I was just trying to fit in. I didn't mean. You did mean it, you said. You were so ashamed of me that you let people treat me like garbage. You watched Chloe bully me and you did nothing because you were too cowardly to stand up to your friends. You aren't a protector, Leo. You're a child. I love you, he shouted, the movement of his lips desperate. No, I replied, leaning in. You love the idea of being the hero who saved the death girl, but you hate the girl herself. I'm leaving. Leaving? What do you mean? I held up my acceptance letter. The logo of the university was bold and prestigious. I'm going to a city where nobody knows who you are, and I'm going to a place where I don't have to look at your face to know exactly how little I'm worth to you. I walked away, the sound of my own footsteps echoing in the silence of my mind. For the first time in years, the silence didn't feel like a prison. It felt like a shield. The move to the new city was a whirlwind of cardboard boxes and neon lights. Maya, of course, had applied to the same university. She had the money to go anywhere, but she claimed she couldn't leave me alone in a new city because I'd probably accidentally join a cult due to my overwhelming kindness. Look at this place, Maya exclaimed, gesturing wildly at our luxury apartment. We are officially the queens of this zip code. The city was a sensory overload. I loved the way the subway vibrated through the soles of my shoes, and the way the rain felt like a rhythmic drumming on the glass. And, of course, there was Julian. Julian had moved his regional headquarters to this city months prior. He became our unofficial guardian, though he spent more time making sure I was eating properly than he did managing his employees. One evening, after a grueling week of midterms, Julian took me to a rooftop garden. The city stretched out below us, a tapestry of electric gold and deep velvet blue. He took my hands in his palms warm and steady. He didn't sign this time. He spoke slowly, looking directly into my eyes. I have waited a long time to tell you this, he said, but I don't want to be the big brother figure anymore. I don't want to be the guy who just picks you up from school. I felt my heart hammer against my ribs. I love you, Elena. Not because you're brave or because you're kind or because of what happened when you were 12. I love you because you are the only person I know who can find music in the silence. I didn't know what to say. I had spent so long being the damaged one, the one who needed care, that I didn't know how to be the one who was desired. I don't know, I whispered. Julian smiled, a small, patient curve of the lips. That's okay. You don't have to answer now. In fact, don't answer. I'll just pursue you. I'll be the most annoying man in your life until you agree to date me. Just do me one favor. I tilted my head. Don't fall in love with anyone else in the meantime. I'm very possessive of my favorite person. I laughed, a genuine, bright sound that surprised me. I leaned my head against his shoulder, feeling the steady thrum of his heart. For the first time, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. While Julian was playing the long game with me, Maya was fighting a war of her own. Maya had developed a very specific, very loud obsession with Julian's secretary, Silas. Silas was a man of few words and immense competence. He had been an orphan, raised by Maya's parents alongside Julian. He was the shadow to Julian's light, stoic, efficient, and completely immune to Maya's charms. "He's doing it on purpose," Maya complained to me one afternoon, flopping onto my bed. I literally told him my dress was too tight and asked if he could help me with the zipper. Do you know what he did? I signed, "What?" He handed me a safety pin and told me to be more careful with your sizing. He's a monster, a beautiful, suit-wearing monster. I chuckled, imagining the scene. Silas was the only person who could handle Maya because he had grown up with her. He knew exactly which buttons to push to make her fume. You love him because he doesn't worship you, I signed. Maya paused, her expression softening for a split second. Shut up, but also, yes, it's infuriating. He looks at me like I'm a loud toddler, and for some reason it makes me want to marry him just to see the look on his face when I make him wear a tuxedo that isn't black. The romance between them was less of a slow burn and more of a controlled explosion. It culminated during a company gala where Maya finally cornered Silas in the coat room. "Listen, you boring, efficient robot," Maya had yelled, according to her later retelling. "I am the most exciting thing to happen to this city since the invention of the skyscraper. Admit that you like me, or I will buy your favorite coffee shop and replace all the beans with decaf." Silas had simply looked at her, sighed, and kissed her so deeply that Maya had forgotten how to breathe for a full 30 seconds. "You're a nightmare," Silas had whispered against her lips. "Your favorite nightmare," she had replied. As the years passed, my life became a symphony of things I could feel. I felt the weight of the gold band on my finger, a ring Julian had given me on a rainy Tuesday in the middle of a bookstore. I felt the vibration of our children's laughter against my skin. I felt the unwavering loyalty of Maya, who had eventually married Silas in a ceremony that was more of a fashion show than a wedding. And then there was the news from home. My mother called me, via a video link, to tell me that Leo had returned to the city. He had tried to start his own farm, but it had failed miserably. He had become a ghost of the boy I once knew, haunted by the choices he had made. "He's devastated, Elena," my mother signed. "He keeps asking about you. He wants to apologize. He says he realizes now how much he threw away." I looked at Julian, who was currently sitting on the living room floor, helping our daughter build a Lego castle. He looked up and smiled at me, his eyes full of a warmth that had never flickered. "He's sorry," I told my mother, "but he's sorry for the loss, not for the action." A few months later, Leo actually tracked me down. He showed up at a gallery opening where I was exhibiting my photography. He looked older, tired, the polished sheen of his youth replaced by a hollow exhaustion. He approached me, his lips trembling. "Elena," he said, I saw the photos. They're beautiful. You've done so much." I looked at him. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I felt absolutely nothing. "Thank you, Leo," I said. "I spent 3 years trying to find the words to tell you how sorry I am," he continued, his voice cracking. "I was a coward. I let everyone get in my head. I thought being normal was more important than being with the only person who ever truly cared for me." "You're right," I replied. "You were a coward, and you were childish. Can we try again? Just a coffee, just a talk." I felt Julian's hand slide around my waist, a grounding presence. Julian didn't say anything. He didn't have to. He just stood there, the man who had learned to listen to my silence. I looked Leo in the eyes and smiled, a kind smile, the kind of smile I gave to strangers. "I can't, Leo. I've already found someone who doesn't need me to be normal to love me. I hope you find peace, but please don't look for it in my life. There's no room left for you here." As I walked away, I didn't look back. I didn't need to. I could feel the vibration of the world around me, the the humming of the city, the heartbeat of my husband, and the absolute beautiful silence of a past that no longer had power over me. Maya caught up to me near the exit, clutching a glass of champagne and looking radiant in a dress that probably cost more than Leo's failed business. "Did the golden boy try to crawl back?" she asked, her eyes gleaming. "He did," I replied. "And?" I leaned into Julian, closing my eyes. "And I told him the vacancy has been filled." Maya laughed, a loud, boisterous sound that I could feel in my chest. "That's my girl. Now come on, Silas is trying to convince me that we don't need a third vacation home in Italy, and I need you to help him tell him why he's wrong." We walked out into the night, the city lights blurring into a